Good morning, students.
Good afternoon,
Students,
ma'am.
okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, so what are these?
Fast
Various
food, ma'am.
junk food, ma'am. Food.
Yes, various fast food and junk food. Your mouth might be watering seeing these.
Yes, ma'am.
But have you ever eaten any of these and felt sick?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
After that, it was sick.
After that, you got sick. Okay.
Ma'am, I experienced vomiting.
Okay, you experienced vomiting. Okay. So what might be the reason behind it?
Maybe because of food poisoning, ma'am.
Yes, very good, Soumya. It was because of food poisoning. Now you all know the basic knowledge about food poisoning. We'll study the food poisoning in details. Okay, so today we are going to study about food poisoning. Now, food poisoning. Wait a second. Yes, so the food poisoning is caused due to the presence of large number of harmful microorganisms in the food, or it may be due to the presence of certain toxic substances in the food, which is formed by the action of certain microorganisms. Now, whenever certain kind of microorganisms gets inside your food, which is harmful, it undergoes certain metabolic reactions and it produces certain harmful substances. Okay, which when you consume you felt sick. So food poisoning occurs due to consumption of food which is contaminated by some of the microorganisms. Now students, if you keep moist bread or any kind of fruit like a papaya out for so long time, like for a day or two, what will you observe?
It starts degrading and microorganisms also form. Like bread start getting fermented, ma'am.
Fungus, yeah. Fungus will start forming.
Yes, sister. Very good. Very good, sister and Soumya. Fungus starts forming. Then certain microorganisms grow in it. So there are certain microorganisms like bacteria, worms, fungi, and virus which may be present in certain foods. And when you consume such food, you felt sick. Like, let us talk about virus. Hepatitis. Have you ever heard of this disease, hepatitis?
Yes, ma'am.
What happens in hepatitis? Anyone? It's okay, I'll tell you. Now, during when a person gets hepatitis, then the liver gets damaged. Okay, we get liver cirrhosis, and certain kind of hepatitis like hepatitis B and hepatitis E is caused when you consume a food which is infected by virus. Okay, so could cause your food that could cause food poisoning. Now there are also certain kind of worms like roundworm and tapeworm which may be present in certain foods. Like it is not recommended to eat uncooked or undercooked meat. Do you know the reason why?
Yes, ma'am.
Why, Somna?
Ma'am, it might happen now that the meat of the particular organism is already infected, and if we eat undercooked or uncooked meat, then that particular infection can reach our body and can cause, ultimately, it can cause food poisoning, ma'am.
Yes, very good, Soumya. So, whenever we eat uncooked or undercooked meat, if the animal is infected, then the cyst of the may be present in the meat, the egg. Okay, and when we eat it and consume it, now imagine that egg will rupture in our body, and the worms will start forming in our body. Okay, now, about bacteria and fungi, can you name certain bacteria which could harm us when you consume food, like the foodborne bacteria?
Ma'am, Salmonella typhi, Vibrio cholerae.
Yes, very good, Soumya. Salmonella typhi, Vibrio cholerae. So, Salmonella typhi Wait a second. Yes, Salmonella typhi causes typhoid. Okay, Vibrio cholera causes cholera. And then Clostridium botulinum, it is a kind of bacteria which if present in food and if you consume it, then it produces some certain toxic substances. And if the toxic substances gets in your body, it will run across your body and it may damage your nervous system, and which may even lead to death. Okay, so it produces toxins. Then this typhoid is also a kind of disease which is spreads from person to person with the help of food. Okay, then Vibrio cholera. So when a person gets cholera, you will see that the person is having dysentery, vomiting. All of this is because of the food poisoning due to bacteria. Now there are certain fungi also which causes food poisoning. Like when you keep moist bread out for a day or two, have you ever observed certain things on it? Okay, yes. Yes, students?
Yes, sister. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay. So what do you observe when you keep the moist bread out for some time, like for a day or two?
Green
What's your
color.
big one? Color change.
Yes, color change. And if you observe it very carefully, you'll see some structure like this. Wait, I'm making it for you. Like this, right?
Yes,
If you observe it carefully, it has certain structure like this. It is because of the fungi. The fungus grows on the bread. Okay, and how does it smells or taste?
Ma'am, the smell and the taste both changes, ma'am. It
Yes,
has
very good. The smell and the taste both changes. It smells bad and taste. I
yes,
don't think you people have ever tasted such kind of thing, right?
yes, ma'am.
Yes. So it becomes hard to consume such kind of things. Now, have you ever heard of Julius Caesar?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, how did he die?
Brutus killed him, ma'am.
Yes, very good, Soumya. Brutus killed him. But do you know that that they killed him with the help of mushroom? Okay, it was a poisonous mushroom, and it belonged to the phylum Ascomycetes. Okay, Ascomycetes of the fungi. Now, some of the mushroom could be so lethal, so dangerous that it could even kill you. So whenever you take mushrooms, always assure that the mushroom is good for consumption, or you may even face death-like symptoms, like Julius Caesar. Okay. Now, students, can you tell me that from where does all of these microorganisms comes in our food and cause food poisoning?
Ma'am, may you please repeat the question?
Okay, from where does all of this microorganism comes in our food?
From the environment.
Moment,
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
very good environment. Very good sister environment. Then, like we have talked about uncooked or undercooked food, so that is also one of the source. Let us learn about it in details.
Let me show you how food gets contaminated. Not washing your hands before preparing food, eating or using after the toilet, using dirty utensils for cooking, eating, and storing food, not washing fruits and vegetables with clean water, storing raw and cooked food in the same place, not cooking or reheating the food thoroughly, handled by someone who's ill or has a certain disease.
Understood, students?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you need to wash your hands before eating the food, or you need to just take care of everything before eating the food. Also, you eat some kind of street food outside? If it is not good, like if it is unhygienic, you should eat it.
ma'am.
We should not eat it, ma'am.
Why?
Ma'am, because it may contain certain microorganisms, because the street vendors, they sometimes sell us stale food also, ma'am, and also their hands are not very clean. So we should
Yes,
avoid eating
very
the
good,
food.
very good. And apart from that, if the food is also uncovered at some places, so flies and all may come and sit on the food, and it may contaminate the food, and you may get food poisoning after eating such kind of food. Okay, now in the beginning, I just asked about some of the conditions which you got because of food poisoning. Can you name some more? Like Soumya said, vomiting. Sister, did you face any of such thing?
Yes, ma'am. Diarrhea and vomiting,
Diarrhea and
vomiting and
vomiting.
stomach pain.
Stomach
Okay,
pain, yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Yes, yes. So whenever you consume any kind of such food which is contaminated, there are certain symptoms which we see.
Let me show
Okay. Now let us see about the symptoms in detail.
you some other common signs and symptoms. Diarrhea. If you have stomach cramps, diarrhea, or nausea a few hours after eating something, chances are you may have food poisoning. Fever and aches. The typical signs of food poisoning are head or muscle aches and a fever. Dehydration. This is a severe loss of water, salts, and minerals. A lack of fluids in the body can cause tiredness, weakness, and sometimes even irregular heartbeats. Food poisoning is rarely serious and usually gets better within a week.
Understood, students? So you may get vomiting, diarrhea, pain in abdomen, headache and fever, and all the other symptoms which you saw in the video. You may get many of such symptoms. So if you ever ate something and you feel all such symptoms, including indigestion, yes. So if you face any kind of such symptoms, understand that it may be because of food poisoning. Okay. Now there are certain ways to prevent food poisoning. You saw the video, right? No, without looking at the slide, can you just think of something like when I talked about washing fruits? So yes, washing fruit, covering food, anything else?
Wash
Ma'am,
your
we should wash
hands.
our hands. Yes.
Yes,
And
very good. Wash
we
your hands.
should ensure that the food that we are eating is properly cooked, like especially the meat, it should be properly cooked. Then
Very,
we should
very good,
not.
Soumya. So cover the food properly, wash vegetables and fruits before consumption, consume properly cooked food, because if you are taking undercooked or uncooked food, then certain bacteria or the eggs or the worm may be present. Now separate the raw meat, chicken, eggs, and seafood, etc., from ready to eat foods. Because if you will keep all the two foods together, it may contaminate. Okay, then wash your hands properly, because if you are not washing your hand, especially when you are coming from the soil and all, then your hands may contain certain eggs of worms, or it may contain different diseases. Now, the typhoid which I talked about was spread by Typhoid Mary, and she doesn't used to wash her hand. Okay, now refrigerate the food, because uh, why do you think we need to refrigerate the food?
Ma'am, because there's an optimum temperature range in which the microorganisms can survive. But when you refrigerate the food, usually this food is stored at very low temperatures in which the microorganisms cannot survive. Their enzymes, they break at that temperature, ma'am. That's why we need to refrigerate the food,
Brilliant
ma'am.
answer, Soumya. Very brilliant answer. Yes, so there is an optimum temperature which is necessary for the microorganisms to grow. Like when you grow curd and all, you used to keep it outside in some warm place so that it grows. So we need to refrigerate food. Now curd is something good, but other microbes also grows in certain kind of temperature. So we need to refrigerate the food so as to avoid microorganisms growing inside it. Okay. Now we have learned everything about food poisoning. So let's just recapitulate and then we'll continue with the questions. So we learned about food poisoning. Okay. Then the microorganisms which cause food poisoning, like Vibrio cholera, Clostridium botulinum, etc. Then we learned about how the food gets contaminated, how actually is the food getting contaminated, and when we are consuming it, we are getting food poisoning. Then we learned about different kinds of symptoms of food poisoning. And lastly, we learned about the ways to prevent food poisoning. So, shall I ask the question now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, students. So, define food poisoning.
Ma'am,
Student.
food poisons are infections that are caused by some microorganisms
Yes,
like
very good.
bacteria, virus,
Yes,
etc.
very good. So, infections caused by microorganism. Anything else, Swami? You need to add something?
Food poisoning, as sister has said, it's an infection which is caused by the microorganisms and which deteriorates the health of the organism, ma'am.
Very good. Which deteriorates our health. Okay. Can you give me some examples of the microorganisms which causes food poisoning?
Yes, ma'am. Vibrio cholerae, Salmonella typhi, Clostridium botulinum, ma'am.
Very good, Soumya. So, can you explain some of the symptoms of food poisoning?
Uh, Symptoms are like the person start feeling stomach pain and then will have vomiting and diarrhea. Thus, it will cause the person to be weak and dehydration also can be caused because of that.
Yes, very good, sister. Very good. So these are certain kind of symptoms which we get due to food poisoning, and if not taken care properly, then the person may even die because of food poisoning. In certain cases, okay, not in every case. In certain cases, when the bacteria or the virus or whatever microorganism is way too lethal. Okay. Now, can you just list some of the ways to prevent food poisoning?
Ma'am, some ways can be we should wash our hands before consuming any food or material. Then the utensils we are utilizing for consuming the food, that should be properly washed. Then if we are eating some raw vegetables, not vegetables, if we are consuming some raw fruits, it should be washed properly. And when we are consuming meat, we should ensure that it is properly cooked. Ma'am, these can be some of the ways which can help us prevent the entry of the bacteria or other microorganisms into our body, and thereby it can help us prevent the food poisoning, ma'am.
And
Very good,
also,
Soumya.
instead of going for junk food and fast food, we can also have the food that is prepared at home.
Very, very good, sister. Yes, we can use the food prepared at home, because whenever we take from outside, we don't know how the food is being prepared, and we don't know if the food is properly covered. So yes, we should try to make things at home itself. Very good, Soumya, sister. So let us move to home assignment. Now find out different waterborne diseases caused by food and water. Okay, now Vibrio cholera and typhoid are two of the diseases which I mentioned. Now find all the other diseases which is caused due to food and water. Okay,
Yes.
Okay,
so
ma'am.
thank